The relentless sun of Korriban scorched the sands of the ancient arena, casting long shadows from the 4 towering pillars that had stood witness to countless battles over the centuries. The air was thick with the palpable tension of anticipation, as the gathered crowd of Sith acolytes and masters murmured excitedly, awaiting the commencement of the duel. Within this hallowed battleground, 2 figures stood opposite each other, their faces hidden beneath the shadows of their dark hoods. The first, Self-Insert, was a Sith acolyte whose reputation had begun to spread throughout the Sith Empire. Though he had been raised within the confines of the Empire, Sel's innate prowess and determination had been honed by the harsh realities of his upbringing. His red lightsaber, reminiscent of the legendary Darth Malak's weapon, glowed menacingly in the fading light. His opponent, a fearsome and cunning Sith named Lord Varen, sneered at Sel from across the sands, his eyes filled with a predatory hunger for victory. "So, this is the prodigy I've heard so much about," he taunted, igniting his own crimson blade. "I hope you're prepared to face the might of a true Sith acolyte." Sel's eyes narrowed, and a wry smile crept across his lips. "Bold words, Lord Varen," he replied, his voice steady despite the rising tension. "But it's not your words that will determine the outcome of this duel." With that, the 2 Sith combatants lunged toward each other, their crimson lightsabers clashing in a brilliant display of power and skill. The air crackled with the energy of their blades, as the sands beneath their feet shifted with each furious strike. As the duel intensified, Sel deftly dodged and parried Lord Varen's relentless attacks. His movements, swift and fluid, belied the years of brutal training he had undergone within the Sith Academy. Sel's agility and precision were matched only by his unwavering focus, as he sought an opening in Lord Varen's formidable defenses. "You're fast, young one," Lord Varen snarled, launching another flurry of strikes at Sel. "But speed alone won't save you from the wrath of a Sith master." Self-Insert, however, was not intimidated by Varen's bravado. The Sith Empire values strength above all else, he retorted, expertly deflecting a powerful blow. "And today, I'll prove that my strength surpasses yours." Lord Varen, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the arena into shadow, the duel reached its climax. Self-Insert, seizing a momentary lapse in Lord Varen's offense, capitalized on the opportunity with a swift, decisive strike. His crimson blade found its mark, and Lord Varen fell to the sands, defeated. The crowd erupted in cheers and jeers, as Sel stood victorious in the center of the arena, his eyes burning with the intensity of his triumph, or the weight of a destiny that was only just beginning to unfold. In the brutal world of the Sith Empire, Self-Insert's journey would be fraught with treachery, power struggles, and the ever-present lure of the dark side. But for now, he reveled in his hard-fought victory, knowing that his path would be forged by the strength of his resolve and the undeniable skill of his lightsaber. Self-Insert, now a renowned arena fighter, had captured the attention of the Sith Empire's upper echelons. His victories in the ancient Korriban arena had become a symbol of his growing power, and whispers of his potential spread like wildfire through the ranks. As his reputation grew, so did his ambition. Sel's cunning mind saw the potential in using his newfound fame to navigate the treacherous waters of Sith politics. He knew that in the cutthroat world of the Sith, only the strongest survived, and strength was not limited to physical prowess alone. It was a game of strategy and manipulation, one that Cell was eager to master. As the months passed, Cell's influence within the Sith Empire began to grow. He was invited to exclusive gatherings, where he rubbed shoulders with powerful Sith lords and influential politicians. In these gatherings, Cell displayed not only his martial prowess but also his keen intellect and understanding of the political landscape. He carefully observed the intricate web of alliances and rivalries that defined the Empire's power structure, learning to exploit the weaknesses he observed. In the shadows of dimly lit chambers, Cell forged alliances with key figures, offering his skills as a warrior in exchange for their support in his ascent. He honed his skills in manipulation and persuasion, using his growing network of allies to sow discord among his rivals, turning them against one another in a carefully orchestrated dance of deception. But Cell's ambitions did not go unnoticed. The upper echelons of the Sith Empire were rife with jealousy and suspicion, and whispers of his rapid rise reached the ears of those who would see him fall. Cell knew that he had to tread carefully, for the line between success and failure was razor thin, and one misstep could spell his doom. As his power grew, so too did the challenges he faced. Cell's former masters and allies became potential adversaries, as each sought to test the limits of his abilities and to challenge his claim to power. Through it all, Cell remained focused and determined, using his martial prowess and political acumen to navigate the treacherous path that lay before him. In the brutal world of the Sith Empire, Cell Fincert's rise was a testament to his unyielding ambition and the strength of his will. As he climbed the ladder of power, he was forced to confront the harsh reality of the dark side. That to truly master the art of politics, one must be willing to sacrifice everything in the pursuit of power. For Cell, the road to greatness was fraught with danger, but the promise of ultimate power was an irresistible lure that he could not ignore. As Cell Fincert's political influence within the Sith Empire continued to grow, so too did the resentment of those who saw him as a threat. Powerful Sith lords, wary of his rapid ascent, began to devise a plan to halt his progress and reclaim the power they believed he had stolen from them. Recognizing that Cell's reputation as an arena fighter was the cornerstone of his political rise, these Sith lords decided to challenge him where he was considered strongest within the confines of the ancient Korriban arena. They believed that by defeating him in combat, they could tarnish his image and weaken his influence among the Sith hierarchy. The news of this challenge spread quickly through the Empire, attracting the attention of Sith lords and acolytes alike. The arena, once again, became the focal point of the Empire's interest, as spectators flocked to witness the impending confrontation between Cell Fincert and the formidable Sith lords who sought to bring him down. As the day of the duel approached, Cell remained unfazed by the challenge, recognizing it for what it was: a political maneuver designed to test his resolve and to undermine his position. He knew that, in order to maintain his upward trajectory, he would need to prove himself once more in the arena. The day of the duel arrived, and the ancient Korriban arena was filled to capacity with eager spectators, eager to witness the spectacle. Cell stood at the center of the arena, his crimson lightsaber glowing menacingly in the dim light, as the powerful Sith lords who sought to challenge him emerged from the shadows. The air crackled with tension as the duel commenced, with the Sith lords launching a barrage of attacks against Cell. Despite the overwhelming odds, Cell fought with the same intensity and skill that had brought him to this point in his journey. He deftly parried and countered each attack, showcasing his mastery of the dark side and his unwavering determination to prevail. As the battle raged on, It became clear to the spectators that Self-Insert was not a mere pawn in the game of Sith politics. He was a force to be reckoned with. One who refused to be intimidated by the power and influence of his adversaries. With each Sith Lord he defeated, Sel's reputation only grew stronger. He had once again demonstrated his unyielding resolve and his mastery of the dark side, further solidifying his position within the Empire's hierarchy. The Sith Lords who had sought to bring him down were left to lick their wounds. As Sel emerged victorious from the arena, they had underestimated his prowess and his determination, and their failed attempt to undermine him had only served to strengthen his position. In the world of Sith politics, Self-Insert had proven himself to be a formidable player, one who would not be easily swayed by the machinations of his enemies. As his power and influence continued to grow, the Sith Empire would come to realize that Self-Insert was a force that could not be easily controlled or contained. The distant hum of lightsabers echoed throughout the once thriving Sith facility, now reduced to smoldering ruins. The Jedi, in a daring and unexpected assault, had attacked the arena where Self-Insert had been fighting, laying waste to the powerful Sith who had gathered to witness his ascent. As the dust settled and the screams of the fallen faded, Sel found himself a lone Sith survivor, standing amidst the destruction that had been wrought by the Jedi strike force. His heart raced, fueled by a potent mix of anger and exhilaration, as he realized that the time had come to face his sworn enemies. The Jedi, relentless and determined, advanced in waves, their blue and green lightsabers cutting through the smoke and debris that clouded the air. Sel ignited his crimson blade, its menacing glow casting eerie shadows on the broken pillars and fallen warriors that littered the battlefield. Despite being vastly outnumbered, Sel fought with a ferocity and skill that seemed to defy the odds. His lightsaber, an extension of his will, danced through the air, deflecting the Jedi's attacks and striking with deadly precision. Each fallen Jedi fueled his resolve, as the dark side surged within him, granting him the strength to continue. Wave after wave of Jedi crashed against the shore of Sel's determination. Yet he stood firm, his lightsaber carving a path through their ranks. As the battle wore on, it became clear that Self-Insert was not just a formidable duelist, but a force of nature, capable of standing against even the most daunting of foes. The remaining Jedi, their numbers dwindling, began to falter in the face of Sel's relentless onslaught. Their once coordinated attacks became desperate, disjointed lunges, as they struggled to comprehend the power that stood before them. Finally, as the last Jedi fell to Sel's crimson blade, the once great arena fell silent. Self-Insert, the lone Sith survivor, stood victorious amidst the carnage, his fury and the power of the dark side having carried him through an impossible battle. As the reality of his triumph sank in, Sel knew that his journey was far from over. The Jedi had sought to extinguish the flame of the Sith Empire, but in doing so, they had only served to fan the fires of his ambition. In the days that followed, tales of Self-Insert's incredible stand against the Jedi would spread like wildfire throughout the galaxy. His name would become synonymous with power and defiance, and the Sith Empire would rally around him as a symbol of their unyielding determination. With each new victory, Sel's legend would grow, and with it, the power of the dark side. For in the end, the Jedi's attempt to snuff out the Sith had only served to create a legend, a figure whose very existence would become a rallying cry for those who walked the path of darkness. Self-insert. His body bruised and battered from his epic battle in the arena, struggled to maintain consciousness as the last Jedi Master he faced managed to incapacitate him. As darkness threatened to envelop him, Cell's final glimpse was the face of the Jedi Master. A mix of relief and determination etched across his features. When Cell awoke, he found himself in a dimly lit prison cell. The dull hum of a force field separating him from freedom. The walls of the cell seemed to be closing on him, and the cold metallic floor offered little comfort. He could sense the presence of numerous Jedi aboard the ship, their collective light side energy in stark contrast to the dark side he had come to embrace. As Cell sat, alone and weakened, he reflected on his situation. He had fought with all the power and skill he possessed, yet he had ultimately been bested by a single Jedi Master. His pride stung, but his survival instinct told him that this was not the end of his journey. He would find a way to escape and reclaim his place within the Sith Empire. As time passed, Cell listened carefully to the conversations of the Jedi outside his cell. He learned that they were transporting him to a secure facility, where he would be detained and interrogated in an effort to gain information about the inner workings of the Sith Empire. The Jedi saw Cell as a valuable asset, a potential source of intelligence that could shift the balance of power in their favor. Cell knew that his captors were underestimating him. They saw him as a defeated Sith, unaware of the cunning and resourcefulness that had propelled him to the upper echelons of the Empire. With each passing moment, Cell began to devise a plan, formulating an intricate web of deception and manipulation that would allow him to escape his confinement. As the days wore on, Cell carefully tested the limits of his prison cell, probing for weaknesses in the force field and studying the patterns of his captors. He knew that his moment would come, and he would need to be ready to seize it when it did. Finally, the opportunity presented itself. As one of the Jedi guards deactivated the force field to deliver a meager meal, Cell sprang into action. He had secretly been gathering his strength, focusing his power into a single, decisive strike. With a swift motion, he unleashed a wave of dark side energy, catching the Jedi guard off guard and hurling him against the wall. In the chaos that followed, Cell made his escape. He fought his way through the ship, using his knowledge of the dark side and his lightsaber skills to disable and evade the Jedi who sought to recapture him. His goal was clear: to reach the ship's control room and use its systems to chart a course back to Sith-controlled space. With each passing moment, Self-insert's freedom seemed more and more within reach. The Jedi had underestimated him, and they would soon learn the true power and cunning of the Sith warrior who had survived against all odds. With his crimson lightsaber in hand, Self-insert moved stealthily through the ship's corridors, his dark side powers guiding him towards his final confrontation with the remaining Jedi Masters. The bodies of fallen Padawans and knights lay strewn in his wake, a grim testament to the power that had enabled his escape thus far. As Cell approached the ship's command center, he could sense the formidable presence of the Jedi Masters awaiting him. They were skilled warriors, having spent years honing their abilities in the service of the Jedi Order. But Cell was undaunted. Something went wrong. Please try reloading the conversation. The Jedi Order could offer. And he had emerged triumphant. However, just as Cell reveled in his victory, the last Jedi Master mustered the last of his strength and caught Cell off guard with a powerful force push. The sheer force of the impact sent Cell hurtling across the room, his lightsaber slipping from his grasp as darkness once again threatened to consume him. When Cell awoke, he found himself in a completely unfamiliar environment. He was no longer on the Jedi ship but instead appeared to be in a lush green landscape, the unmistakable beauty of Naboo surrounding him. He was bruised and battered from his battles but was still very much alive, a testament to his remarkable resilience. As he struggled to his feet, Cell couldn't help but wonder how he had ended up on Naboo. Had the Jedi Masters decided to spare his life, hoping that he might yet be redeemed? Or had some other, more mysterious force intervened in his fate, guiding him to a new beginning? Whatever the reason for his arrival on Naboo, Cell knew that his journey was far from over. His connection to the dark side remained strong, and he was determined to continue his ascent within the ranks of the Sith Empire. The Jedi had underestimated him once, but he would make certain they never made the same mistake again. With renewed determination, Cell Finsert set out to find his place in this new world, his connection to the dark side burning like a beacon in the night. Though his path would be filled with challenges and danger, Cell was ready to face whatever fate had in store for him, driven by his unyielding ambition and his thirst for power. Cell Finsert, guided by his connection to the dark side, ventured deep into the heart of Naboo's wilderness. The lush, green landscape eventually gave way to a hidden valley, its serene beauty belying the ancient power that lay within. As Cell entered the valley, he felt a sudden, powerful surge of dark side energy, drawn to its source. He continued onward, his anticipation growing with each step. The sensation was intoxicating, a potent reminder of the power that he had come to embrace. At the center of the valley, Cell discovered the source of the energy, a Sith monument of immense age and power, seemingly untouched by the passage of time. The monument was a towering statue of an angelic figure, a beautiful, enigmatic woman whose features were both alluring and sinister. In her outstretched hands, she held a gleaming silver orb, a symbol of the dark side's mastery over life and death. A fountain flowed at the base of the statue, its waters cascading over the orb and down the sides of the monument, casting a shimmering glow across the valley floor. The sound of the water seemed to echo the whispering voices of ancient Sith, their secrets and knowledge forever entwined with the dark side energy that permeated the site. As Cell stood before the monument, he couldn't help but feel awed by its power and majesty. It was a testament to the enduring legacy of the Sith, a reminder of the dark side's eternal presence in the galaxy. For Cell, it was also a symbol of his own journey, a reflection of the path he had chosen and the power that he had come to wield. As he approached the statue, Cell felt the dark side energy coursing through him, the monument acting as a conduit for the ancient power that lay dormant beneath the valley. He knew that this place held the potential to amplify his own connection to the dark side, to unlock secrets and abilities that had been lost to the Sith for millennia. Emboldened by his discovery, Cell Finsert vowed to harness the power of the monument and use it to further his own ambitions. He would become a master of the dark side, a force to be reckoned with in a galaxy still reeling from the echoes of an eternal conflict between darkness and light. You've reached the current usage cap for GPT4. You can continue with the default model now, or try again after 3:34 p.m. As Cell stood there, surrounded by the bodies of his defeated enemies, he felt the power of the Sith monument coursing through him, infusing him with a strength and a sense of purpose that he had never felt before. He knew that he was on the right path, that his destiny lay in harnessing the dark side of the Force and using it to further his own ambitions. With a sense of quiet confidence, Cell turned his gaze back to the monument. He could feel the power of the dark side emanating from it, calling to him with a seductive whisper. He knew that he could not leave this place. Not yet. There was much to be learned here, many secrets to be unlocked. As he approached the monument, Cell felt a sudden jolt of energy, as if the very air around him had come alive with power. He could sense that the monument was responding to him, that it recognized him as one of its own. With a deep breath, Cell reached out with his senses, letting the dark side guide him as he delved deeper into the secrets of the Sith monument. He could feel the knowledge of ages flowing into him, filling him with a sense of purpose and a sense of destiny. In that moment, Cell knew that he had truly become one with the dark side of the Force. He was a Sith, a warrior of the shadows, and he would stop at nothing to achieve his ultimate goals. The power of the Sith monument was his to wield, and he would use it to become the most feared and revered Sith warrior in the galaxy. With a final glance at the monument, Cell turned and strode confidently away, his path forward now clear and his destiny beckoning him ever onwards. The Jedi may have come for him, but they had failed to understand the true nature of his power. Cell Finsert was a Sith, and he would always be one, no matter what the cost. As Cell Finsert emerged from the battle with the Jedi, he could feel the darkness within him roiling, the power of the Sith monument still pulsing through his veins. He was victorious. Yes. But the cost had been high. His red lightsaber, the symbol of his allegiance to the dark side, had been lost in the battle. leaving him with only a standard blue lightsaber, similar to the one used by the legendary Jedi Anakin Skywalker. Cell couldn't help but feel a sense of loss as he looked down at the new lightsaber. It was a stark reminder of the power that the Jedi held. A reminder that he had been bested by their superior skill and tactics. But at the same time, he knew that the lightsaber was a symbol of his own growth and evolution. He was no longer the same Sith acolyte who had first taken up the red lightsaber. He was stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before. With a sense of quiet resignation, Cell ignited the blue lightsaber and watched as the blade hummed to life, casting a pale blue glow across the surrounding area. He knew that he would need to adapt to this new weapon, to learn its nuances and strengths. But he was confident that he would master it in time, just as he had mastered the red lightsaber before it. As he turned to leave the battlefield, Cell couldn't help but wonder what lay ahead. His path was uncertain, and his destiny unclear. But he knew one thing for certain. He was no longer bound by the rigid rules of the Sith or the Jedi. He was a force to be reckoned with. A warrior of the dark side who would stop at nothing to achieve his ultimate goals. With a final glance back at the battlefield, Cell Finsert strode confidently forward. His blue lightsaber held aloft. The power of the dark side was his to command, and he would use it to carve out his own destiny, one step at a time. Finsert stood before the Sith monument. He could sense a disturbance in the Force. It was the unmistakable presence of other Sith, dark warriors who had come to claim the monument for their own. Cell knew that he could not let them succeed, that the power of the monument was too great to fall into the wrong hands. Drawing his blue lightsaber, Cell turned to face his opponents, ready for a battle. The Sith who had come to claim the monument were a diverse group, each wielding a different colored lightsaber, each symbolizing their unique connection to the dark side of the Force. Cell could see the red blade of a Sith Lord, the orange glow of a dark acolyte, the yellow hue of a Sith assassin, and the purple radiance of a Sith sorcerer. Each of them was powerful in their own right, each a force to be reckoned with. But Cell was no ordinary Sith. He was a warrior of the dark side, a master of the Force, and he would not be defeated so easily. With a fierce battle cry, Cell charged towards the Sith, his blue lightsaber blazing through the air. The fight was fierce and unrelenting, with both sides unleashing their full power in an effort to emerge victorious. Cell moved with the fluid grace of a true Sith warrior, his lightsaber flashing through the air as he countered the Sith's attacks with practiced ease. He could feel the power of the Sith monument coursing through him, amplifying his own dark side energy and giving him the strength to face his opponents with confidence. The Sith were skilled warriors, their years of training and discipline evident in their movements. But they were no match for Cell's raw power and cunning. And one by one, they fell before him. As the battle raged on, Cell could feel the power of the monument growing within him, its dark energy fueling his own connection to the Force. He knew that he was becoming stronger with each passing moment, that he was becoming a true master of the dark side. Finally, only one Sith remained, a lone figure whose lightsaber blazed with a brilliant purple light. Cell could sense the Sith's determination, his conviction unshakable even in the face of certain defeat. But Cell was determined as well, driven by his own ambition and thirst for power. With a final surge of dark side energy, Cell unleashed a devastating attack, his lightsaber humming through the air and connecting with the Sith's blade in a brilliant flash of light. For a moment, It seemed as though the two warriors were evenly matched. Their powers locked in a fierce struggle for dominance. But then, with a sudden burst of energy, Cell's blade overpowered the Sith's, sending the warrior tumbling backwards in defeat. Cell stood victorious once again, his body pulsing with the power of the Sith monument and his spirit unbreakable in the face of his foes. As the dust settled and the last echoes of the battle faded away, Cell Finsard knew that he had emerged stronger and more powerful than ever before. The Sith may have come for him, but they had ultimately failed to stop him on his path to becoming one of the most feared and revered Sith warriors in the galaxy. As Cell Finsard stood before the Sith monument, he could sense a change within him. The power of the monument, once a source of strength and darkness, had now become something else entirely. He could feel a resonance between himself and the monument, a connection that transcended the boundaries of light and dark. The more Cell fought, the more he felt the monument responding to him, resonating with his very being. He knew that something had changed, that the monument had become more than just a symbol of his power. It had become a part of him, a force dyad that was bound together by the power of the Force. But as Cell struggled with this newfound connection, he found himself being pulled towards the light side of the Force. The darkness that had once consumed him was now giving way to a new, unfamiliar energy. The power of the light was calling to him, tempting him with its promise of redemption and salvation. Cell knew that he was facing a critical moment in his journey. The power of the monument was still strong, and he could feel the pull of the dark side tempting him to continue down his path of darkness and destruction. But at the same time, the light was calling to him, promising him a new path, one that would lead him towards a greater destiny. As he stood there, torn between the light and the dark, Cell knew that he had a choice to make. He could continue down the path of the Sith, embracing the darkness and all its power, or he could choose a new path, one that would lead him towards the light. With a deep breath, Cell reached out with his senses, letting the Force guide him towards his ultimate destiny. He could feel the power of the monument resonating within him, pulsing with the energy of both the light and the dark. In that moment, Cell knew that he had found his true calling. He was a Force dyad, bound together with the Sith monument in a unique and powerful way. And it was this connection that would guide him towards his ultimate destiny, one that would lead him towards a greater understanding of the Force and his place within it. Something went wrong. If this issue persists, please contact us through our help center at help. Open A. OK. As Self-Insert stood before the Sith monument, stepped off the shuttle onto the lush green world of Felucia, he could sense the darkness that permeated the planet. The force was strong here, but it was not the pure energy of the light or the dark. Instead, it was something else entirely. Something that Cell could not quite place. But he did not have time to contemplate the mysteries of the Force. He was here for a purpose. To track down a group of Dark Jedi who had been wreaking havoc across the planet. They were dangerous. Skilled warriors who had turned their backs on the Jedi Order and embraced the darkness within. Cell knew that he was walking into a trap. But he was not afraid. He was a Sith. A master of the dark side. And he would not be defeated so easily. As he moved through the dense foliage of the planet, Cell could feel the presence of the Dark Jedi growing stronger. He could sense their power, their determination, and their utter disregard for the lives of those around them. With a fierce determination, Cell drew his lightsaber, its blue blade igniting with a fierce hum. He was ready for battle. Ready to face his enemies and emerge victorious. And then, without warning, the Dark Jedi attacked. The battle was fierce and unrelenting, with both sides unleashing their full power in an effort to emerge victorious. Cell moved with the fluid grace of a true Sith warrior, his lightsaber flashing through the air as he countered the Dark Jedi's attacks with practiced ease. The Dark Jedi were skilled warriors, their years of training and discipline evident in their movements. But they were no match for Cell's raw power and cunning. And one by one, they fell before him. As the battle raged on, Cell could feel the power of the Force coursing through him, amplifying his own dark side energy and giving him the strength to face his opponents with confidence. Finally, only one Dark Jedi remained. A lone figure whose lightsaber blazed with a brilliant red light. Cell could sense the Dark Jedi's determination. His conviction unshakable even in the face of certain defeat. But Cell was determined as well. Driven by his own ambition and thirst for power. With a final surge of dark side energy, Cell unleashed a devastating attack. His lightsaber humming through the air and connecting with the Dark Jedi's blade in a brilliant flash of light. For a moment, it seemed as though the two warriors were evenly matched. Their powers locked in a fierce struggle for dominance. But then, with a sudden burst of energy, Cell's blade overpowered the Dark Jedi's, sending the warrior tumbling backwards in defeat. Cell stood victorious once again, his body pulsing with the power of the dark side and his spirit unbreakable in the face of his foes. As the dust settled and the last echoes of the battle faded away, Self-Insert knew that he had emerged stronger and more powerful than ever before. The Dark Jedi may have thought that they could defeat him, but they had ultimately failed to understand the true nature of his power. Cell was a Sith, and he would always be one, no matter what the cost. As Self-Insert moved through the dense foliage of Felucia, he could sense the presence of the Sith growing stronger. They were everywhere, lurking in the shadows, waiting to strike. With a deep breath, Cell drew his blue lightsaber, its blade humming to life with a brilliant glow. He knew that he was outnumbered, that the Sith were a formidable foe, but he was determined to face them nonetheless. As he moved towards a clearing in the distance, Cell could see the outline of several Sith warriors, each armed with a red lightsaber and a fierce determination in their eyes. They were moving towards him, their footsteps heavy on the soft ground. But Cell was ready. He had trained for years to face the darkness, to embrace the light, and to become the very embodiment of the Jedi Order. With a fierce cry, Cell charged towards the Sith, his blue lightsaber flashing through the air as he countered their attacks with practiced ease. The battle was fierce and unrelenting, with both sides unleashing their full power in an effort to emerge victorious. As the fight raged on, Cell could see the broken remnants of old Clone Wars vehicles scattered throughout the clearing. The ground was torn up, the air thick with smoke and the stench of burnt metal. But Cell did not let the chaos around him distract him. He remained focused on his opponents, moving with a fluid grace that belied his years of training. The Sith were skilled warriors, their years of training and discipline evident in their movements. But they were no match for Cell's raw power and cunning. And one by one, they fell before him. Finally, only one Sith remained, a lone figure whose lightsaber blazed with a brilliant red light. Cell could sense the Sith's determination, his conviction unshakable even in the face of certain defeat. But Cell was determined as well, driven by his own ambition and thirst for justice. With a final surge of energy, Cell unleashed a devastating attack, his lightsaber humming through the air and connecting with the Sith's blade in a brilliant flash of light. For a moment, it seemed as though the two warriors were evenly matched, their powers locked in a fierce struggle for dominance. But then, with a sudden burst of energy, Cell's blade overpowered the Sith's, sending the warrior tumbling backwards in defeat. Cell stood victorious once again, his body pulsing with the power of the light side and his spirit unbreakable in the face of his foes. As the dust settled and the last echoes of the battle faded away, Cell Finsard knew that he had emerged stronger and more powerful than ever before. The Sith may have thought that they could defeat him, but they had ultimately failed to understand the true nature of his power. Cell was a Jedi, and he would always be one, no matter what the cost. As Cell Finsard moved through the dense jungle of Felucia, he could sense the presence of the Sith growing stronger. He was part of a Jedi strike force, tasked with taking down a group of Sith who had been terrorizing the planet. With a fierce determination, Cell drew his blue lightsaber and charged towards the Sith, his movements fluid and precise. The battle was fierce and unrelenting, with both sides unleashing their full power in an effort to emerge victorious. The Sith were skilled warriors, their red lightsabers humming through the air as they countered Cell's attacks with practiced ease. But Cell was a Jedi, a master of the light side of the Force, and he was determined to emerge victorious. As the battle raged on, Cell could see the broken remnants of old Clone Wars vehicles scattered throughout the clearing. The ground was torn up, the air thick with smoke and the stench of burnt metal. But Cell did not let the chaos around him distract him. He remained focused on his opponents, moving with a fluid grace that belied his years of training. The Sith were numerous, but they were no match for the combined power of the Jedi Strike Force. Cell and his fellow Jedi fought with fierce determination, their lightsabers flashing through the air as they countered the Sith's attacks with practiced ease. Finally, after what seemed like hours of intense fighting, the last of the Sith fell before them. Cell stood victorious, his body pulsing with the power of the light side and his spirit unbreakable in the face of his foes. As the dust settled and the last echoes of the battle faded away, Self-insert knew that he had emerged stronger and more powerful than ever before. He had proven himself to be a true Jedi, a master of the light side of the Force. And he knew that his journey was far from over. But with each victory, he grew more confident in his abilities and more determined to face the challenges that lay ahead. Self-insert could feel the energy of the Force coursing through his body as he continued to battle the Sith on Felucia. The Jedi Strike Force had initially gained the upper hand, but now the Sith were mounting a fierce counterattack. Cell could see the determination in the Sith's eyes, their red lightsabers humming with raw power. They were skilled warriors, each one trained to harness the dark side of the Force in order to gain an advantage in battle. But Cell was a Jedi, and he knew that his power came from the light side of the Force. With a fierce cry, he charged towards the Sith, his blue lightsaber flashing through the air as he countered their attacks with practiced ease. The battle was intense and unrelenting, with both sides unleashing their full power in an effort to emerge victorious. Cell could see the broken remnants of old Clone Wars vehicles scattered throughout the clearing, the ground torn up and the air thick with smoke and the stench of burnt metal. But he did not let the chaos around him distract him. He remained focused on his opponents, moving with a fluid grace that belied his years of training. The battle raged on, with the Jedi Strike Force and the Sith locked in a fierce struggle for dominance. Cell could feel the energy of the Force pulsing through his body, amplifying his own power and giving him the strength to face his opponents with confidence. Finally, after what seemed like hours of intense fighting, the last of the Sith fell before them. Cell stood victorious, his body pulsing with the power of the light side and his spirit unbreakable in the face of his foes. As the dust settled and the last echoes of the battle faded away, Self-insert knew that he had emerged stronger and more powerful than ever before. He had proven himself to be a true Jedi, a master of the light side of the Force. And he knew that his journey was far from over. But with each victory, he grew more confident in his abilities and more determined to face the challenges that lay ahead. Self-insert could feel the power of the dark side coursing through his opponents as he and his fellow Jedi fought against the Dark Jedi. The battle was intense and unrelenting, with both sides unleashing their full power in an effort to emerge victorious. The Dark Jedi were numerous, each one trained to harness the power of the dark side of the Force in order to gain an advantage in battle. But Cell and his fellow Jedi were masters of the light side of the Force, and they fought with fierce determination. Their lightsabers flashed through the air, countering the Dark Jedi's attacks with practiced ease. The battle raged on, with each side refusing to give ground. Cell could feel the energy of the Force pulsing through his body, amplifying his own power and giving him the strength to face his opponents with confidence. He knew that this battle was critical, that the fate of the galaxy depended on their victory. Finally, after what seemed like hours of intense fighting, the last of the Dark Jedi fell before them. Cell and his fellow Jedi stood victorious, their bodies pulsing with the power of the light side of the Force and their spirits unbreakable in the face of their foes. As the dust settled and the last echoes of the battle faded away, Self-insert knew that he had emerged stronger and more powerful than ever before. He had proven himself to be a true Jedi, a master of the light side of the Force, and he knew that his journey was far from over. But with each victory, he grew more confident in his abilities and more determined to face the challenges that lay ahead. Finsurd could feel the dark energy of the Dark Jedi coursing through his body as he stood alone against them on the planet Volusia. He knew that the odds were against him, that he was outnumbered and outmatched. But he refused to give up. With a fierce cry, Cell charged towards the Dark Jedi, his blue lightsaber flashing through the air as he countered their attacks with practiced ease. The battle was fierce and unrelenting, with both sides unleashing their full power in an effort to emerge victorious. The Dark Jedi were numerous, each one trained to harness the power of the dark side of the Force in order to gain an advantage in battle. But Cell was a Jedi, and he fought with fierce determination, his spirit unbreakable in the face of his foes. Their lightsabers clashed, sending sparks flying in all directions. Cell could feel the energy of the Force pulsing through his body, amplifying his own power and giving him the strength to face his opponents with confidence. As the battle raged on, Cell could see the broken remnants of old Clone Wars vehicles scattered throughout the clearing, the ground torn up and the air thick with smoke and the stench of burnt metal. But he did not let the chaos around him distract him. He remained focused on his opponents, moving with a fluid grace that belied his years of training. The battle continued for what seemed like hours, with both sides refusing to give ground. Cell's lightsaber flashed through the air, countering the Dark Jedi's attacks with practiced ease. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the last of the Dark Jedi fell before him. Cell stood victorious, his body pulsing with the power of the light side and his spirit unbreakable in the face of his foes. As the dust settled and the last echoes of the battle faded away, Cell Finsurd knew that he had emerged stronger and more powerful than ever before. He had proven himself to be a true Jedi, a master of the light side of the Force. And he knew that his journey was far from over. But with each victory, he grew more confident in his abilities and more determined to face the challenges that lay ahead.